that in my business moving forward. Other opportunities, education. I was told I couldn't go to public school. I was told in 1980 in Manchester, New Hampshire, by the public school system, I was not welcome to go to their public school when we moved to New Hampshire when I was in 7th grade. You're not welcome in this house. So what did they do? My parents fought tooth and nail with this school system. What did they end up doing? They didn't accommodate. They paid. They spent for 6 years to send me away to a prep school that would take me. I made out like a bandit. I had a great education. They lost something. They lost a student that wanted to be with his peers that he played nerf football with in the neighborhood. Didn't matter. They didn't want me in that school because I could get hurt. They didn't understand me. They didn't want to ask those questions. How do you get dressed? How do you use the bathroom? They were afraid. Education became a great opportunity because I won out on it, but I also get to share that story with anybody else that will listen. How about this? How about biking? How many of you can remember the first time you rode a bicycle? Raise your hand. It probably was with an older brother or sister. It might be with a parent that is pushing you from behind on that two-wheel bicycle and ready to let you go, right? Does that image sound right to you? The reason I know that is because I can remember and tell you the time that my younger sister learned how to ride her bicycle. I'm sitting on the front lawn of our house realizing I'm never going to be able to have that opportunity. As my dad is pushing my sister and off she goes riding a bicycle for her first time. I can tell you the 3 times that my wife taught our 3 children to ride their bicycle. Same image follows. I'm sitting on the front lawn watching Andrea push all of our 3 kids to learn how to ride their bicycle, realizing I'm never going to have this opportunity. I was blessed to have the opportunity to go to the London Paralympics about 18 months ago and see some amazing athletes. Adaptive sport can be an amazing thing. It can be a great outlet. I heard it in the session before how important physical activity is for people with disabilities, and we can't forget that in our HR roles. But I had a great opportunity to see athletes and realize I missed out on adaptive sport. Then I got an invite after I returned back home to a local adaptive sport organization that works with kids, and they wanted me to come look at the ski equipment, to write a blog about it, and maybe test out skiing. But a little inside information in my life, I'm 3'9". The reality is I'm afraid of heights. So I'm not going to get up on the top of a hill on a ski. It's not going to happen. But there in the back of the shed of the adaptive sport equipment place is a 3-wheel recumbent hand cycle. And I think this is the real reason she asked me to come over to see the shed, because there in the back of the shed is this hand cycle, and I immediately go over and I get up on the bike and I grab the bars and I start to pedal. And before I know it, I'm starting to pedal out of that shed and out into the driveway of her busy place. And before I know it, I'm starting to cry. And I'm realizing, you know what, I can do this. And she sees it and she said, why don't you take the recumbent bike home and take it to your family? And I do. I take it home, put it in the truck, get out of the truck at home, put it out in the front of our house, and I get in the bike again, and all of a sudden I start to bike around our neighborhood. And before I know it, my 2 younger children are on either side of me. And they're laughing their heads off, teaching their dad how to ride his bicycle. And I'm crying my eyes out, realizing I never thought I'd have this opportunity. And my kids and I are having a wonderful moment. And we get home, and there's my wife at the bottom of the driveway with a big smile on her face. Now you have to understand about Andrea. She has done all of the 46 peaks in the Adirondacks that are over 4,000 feet multiple times. She's halfway through the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine right now. And she's run 8 marathons to date. So she's a very active person. And my wife says to me, she says, John, that's a wonderful thing. I'm so happy you're doing this. I've always wanted to take a trip with you, a small bicycle trip. Would you like to take a bicycle trip with the family? I'm thinking, Andrea, this is great. I just did a mile around the block and I'm drenched. Yes, I'll take a small trip with you. I'll take a small trip with you. Can we go to this line? I said, where are we going to go? Down by the Hudson River? No, she goes, here, look at this book. She goes, I've always wanted to do the Erie Canal. What section of the Erie Canal, Andrea? No, I've always wanted to do Buffalo to Albany. What? No. I just did a mile. I'm drenched. crying. The kids are laughing. There's no way I'm doing 350 miles. It's all downhill, she says. Now, technically it is. It's 1% grade from Buffalo to Albany. The reality is, you know where it's not downhill? Where it's uphill. That's what it is. Don't you get up on that stage and you tell people you can do these things? Don't you want to inspire people with disabilities towards education and employment? You listen to me? You never listen to me. Don't you think you can inspire people with disabilities if you're out there on that bicycle? Okay. I said, okay. So we trained for 9 months. And last June 23rd, we left Buffalo, New York. And we were fresh as daisies, and we were trained, and we were excited to go. And at this point, we have our family, which is me there. My wife is over my shoulder with a big smile on her face. My son is playing air guitar because, of course, there's a camera on. He has to play air guitar. And my daughter, who I'm very proud of, is on the far right. And my wife's sister, Paige, is behind with the blue. And we had a few people that wanted to volunteer and come out for a few stages. One of the people that I work with Our Ability, his name is Doug Hamlin. He's a quadriplegic. He joined us, and his wife joined us as well. Doug promised me halfway through the training that if I could do this, he could do this too. And Doug did half of each day. He was a lot slower, but he didn't give up. God bless him. And as we left Buffalo, New York on June 23rd, we were going to do this over 17 days, and we are rolling along the hills on pavement as we go. The problem is the pavement ends on day 2, and it stops turning into pavement. Of course, we had trained only on pavement for 9 months. It turns into stone dust. And the problem with stone dust is there's no gliding. You literally have to push yourself each step along the way. Day 2, it's going to be our longest day. It's 27 miles. It's the hottest day. It's 95 degrees. And it's all on stone dust. And when I got to the end of day 2, I was ready to give up. I was shaking. I was so dehydrated. But when I got into the small town of Albion, New York, there on the front lawn of the Orleans County ARC were 350 people with disabilities cheering us on. And they said to me, to a person, "You're inspiring me." And I said, "No, you inspire me." Because of what they do every day. They go to work every day. Their job looks different than yours and mine, but it's equally important. And I said to them, "I promise you I will not stop here. I will continue to go." And so we went through Rochester, and we met Ryan Chalmers, who's a Paralympian, won the gold medal for wheelchair racing. And here's some of the people why it's so important for them. Right now, these young boys were proud to show their tricked out rides, right? Their face paint. But in a very short period of time, they're going to start wondering, how are they going to find a job? Where are they going to go to school? How are they going to find their spouse? They need adaptive sport right now because they need to get that challenge in them now so that they're willing to fight the good fight for employment going forward. I'm so proud to have been able to do this and meet the 2 little boys. And as we continue to cross the state, there we are in Syracuse, and we're starting to meet more and more people. We're starting to meet more and more politicians. We're starting to tour more employment organizations that hire people with disabilities. This is a corporation called HDC that employs 350 people with disabilities, and they're a for-profit business. And so I'm proud to show this. And as we got towards the end, the day before we ended in Schenectady, we had 350 people joining us on the bike ride. And at the very end, we had 1,000 people greet us in Albany, New York. And when we got to the very end, we had shaken hands with the dignitaries, and we had our photos, and we got a chance to say goodbye to the people that we were with. And at the very end, there's a young man named Luke who has a disability. He's 17 years old, and I know him from our town. And he said, "Mr. Robinson, can I talk to you for a moment?" I said, "Luke, absolutely." And he gets down to my height and says, "Mr. Robinson, can you do me a favor? Can I join you when you do the bike trip next year?" I swear my wife put up to it. So on June 30th of this year, we're going to do it in 12 days, not 17 days. We're going to bring an ARC organization with us each and every day. Because we're going to talk about employment for people with disabilities in every town we can. They're not obstacles, they're opportunities. On on the screen right now, the title of the book and the title of the documentary is called Get Off Your Knees. And the reason is because they didn't really know what to call the documentary and the book. And they finally asked me the question, what can we call this? And I said, well, I want to tell you one quick story. So the story takes place at Syracuse University again. Again, we're in probably a scenario that I probably shouldn't have been in, but I was, so there we are. We're at a party one night, and it's in a big room like this, and it's a dance, and we'd been there for a while, and it got too hot, and it's finally time to leave, and I said to my two friends, let's go. Well, the thing was that at Syracuse University, one of the hardest things I had to get used to was standing in line. You stand in line no matter what you do at Syracuse University, and I wasn't used to this at a small high school. I never stood in line. But you stand in line to buy books, you stand in line to get rid of books, you stand in line to go to a basketball game, and so my friends, without ever saying anything, would tuck me into them as close as possible in whatever line we were in. Never ask for help. But they would all of a sudden protect me like a good friend should, and they would grab me and put me right in front of them or behind them in a line so I didn't get stepped on. I started to seek it out as time went on. So we're in this party one night, and we're leaving this party, and the line coming into the party is coming in the same doorway, so you're going up against somebody as you're exiting and entering. One person in, one person out, one person in, one person out. And I'm in line. And this night I'm in line with my two tallest friends, Craig, who's 6'1", and Dave, who's 6'3". And as I'm in line between the two of them, my view of Craig and Dave is not the prettiest right now. Or smelliest, quite frankly. I had a big grumpy look on my face. And this woman looked down at me as we're in line, and she looked up again, and she looked down at me and she said, if you get off your knees, this line will move a lot faster. I am. I'm standing up. Well, my friends thought that was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. John should get off his knees. Truth of the matter is, I needed to get off my knees. Why do I say that? Getting off my knees means I take personal responsibility for who I am. It is my responsibility to be a tax-paying citizen, not a tax-receiving citizen. It is my responsibility to be well-educated, to be employable. It's my responsibility how we learn how to greet each other and to be approachable to whatever scenario comes, whether you want to shake my hand or fist bump or whatever it is. It's my responsibility to be able to accept that. What did it mean specifically after college? I graduated with a degree in television, radio, film, as I said before, with a high GPA from the best communication school in the Northeast. Did I get that job at that television station or with the broadcasting company in New York City? No. It took me 4 years, hundreds of resumes, thousands of help wanted ads. 2 countries, Canada and the United States, Toronto and New York City and Boston. All rejections. 25 times on the second interview in person where I've got to tie my tie for 45 minutes each time to be rejected. I finally got a job offer 4 years later, and now I'm married, and now we have Hayden. What's the job offer? TV station in Syracuse. The local sales manager wanted to give me a chance because he knew how persistent I was. The general sales manager didn't want to hire me, so they came to an agreement. John will give you the phone book, no territory, no salary, no benefits, but we will print you business cards. Do you want the job? Yes, I do. Thank you very much for the opportunity. At the end of my first month, I had $17,000 in new business sales.
Yeah.
At the end of my first year, I was their #1 new business salesperson in the 9 television station group that they owned. At the end of the first year, they had a conference where they invite all the new business sales leaders to go to Key West in this big conference. It's really just a big party. And I was invited, right? No. The #2 person who sat right next to me was invited. He got to go because he wears a 3-piece suit and he looked the part. And he came back from this Key West trip and he sat down at the desk next to me and he goes, John, they've asked me to be the new business sales leader next year. They've asked me to lead the technology advancements in selling advertising. And he sat down at his desk and he opened up his newspaper and he started to read. And I said to myself, no, I'm going to do it again. Because I have to continue proving myself. I have to continue to get off my knees. I ended up being the highest tenured salesperson in that station 5 years later. highest paid employee at that television station, more than the anchors